Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 194 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where nothing is what it was when Celeborn was young.
Well, they really have fallen behind the world in there. Or at least that's what Treebeard says.
Mm-hmm.
But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who is growing sleepy, growing tree-ish, Alan Sisto.
Maybe I just need a nap. Folks, today we are going to be talking about the second part of Treebeard, Chapter 4 in Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. Now, this is, of course, when Treebeard explains about Ents and reminisces about the good old days of the First Age.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, just a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a whole lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well.
But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, I'm going to hand it over to time-traveling Alan for our first North Wing visitor of Season 5.
Well, today we're bringing you another new installment of The North Wing.
Barlam and Butterbur had a room or two in the North Wing at the Prancing Pony Inn, made special for hobbits. Well, this is our place made special for some of our listeners, to give us a chance to get to know them.
Now, rooms at the North Wing are hard to come by, so only our patrons at the Bombadil's Bequest and Círdan's Contribution tiers are eligible. Now, if you'd like to be one of the next patrons to join us, be sure to check out patreon.com/prancingponypod.
Please do. We've got a little bit of a waiting list for the North Wing right now, but we'll get to all of those guests soon, and we'll make room for more if necessary.
That we will. Well then, why don't we welcome tonight's guest to the North Wing, Joseph Torres.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
It's going all right, Joe. How are you?
Great, Joe. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Fantastic. Well, why don't you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? What do you do? What do your loved ones think of all this Tolkien stuff you're so into? You know, that sort of thing.
Okay. I am Joe Torres. I am from South Louisiana originally.
Yeah.
I just finished my PhD in math at Texas A&M University.
Oh my goodness. PhD in math.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, it was the culmination of 6 years of work, so I'm quite glad to be done now.
I bet.
That must be a relief.
Just started my new job as a math professor at a community college in South Texas. So
wow, good for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's great. And my family basically thinks I'm a huge nerd, but
par for the course.
They kind of got that idea already from, going to grad school in math. So I don't think
that's a good point.
I don't think I could add anything onto the pile to make me seem more nerdy now. So I can nerd as much as I want, and I don't get any extra judgment for it. So
it makes you more well-rounded because
right.
You're not just a number nerd. You've got the word nerd thing with the Tolkien love.
You're a Renaissance nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well, and your nerd dial is already set to 11, so it can't go any higher.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because it goes to 11.
And if you get that joke, your nerd dial's even higher. So
exactly. Well, the question we ask everybody who comes to the Prancing Pony, Joe, when and how did you first discover Tolkien's works? And what was your experience like, and why do you keep coming back?
So I had a sort of slow start with Tolkien. I first encountered Tolkien through the Rankin and Bass Hobbit. My grandparents had it on VHS, and I would occasionally go over to their house and get to pick a movie to watch. And one time I picked that, and I watched it. So that was my first exposure to anything in Tolkien's world. When I got to 7th grade, I had a teacher who assigned The Hobbit for reading.
Great teacher.
And he would read it with us in class, too. And he would do voices for all the different characters. And
oh man.
Cool.
Everybody loved him. We also did The Princess Bride with him, and he would do all the voices for that, too. So we all loved him.
Sounds like me if some school district was crazy enough to hire me.
Would let you teach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be all over that. All right.
Except if you went to apply for a job, they'd say, inconceivable!
Oh. So that was my first sort of exposure. And right after that, all of the Lord of the Rings movies were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very much I have to read the book before I see the movie sort of guy. So So I said, well, these movies are coming out, and I'm going to want to watch them because they look awesome. So I'm going to go read these books now. And I read them, and I loved it. It was page turning. I couldn't put it down. I was staying up until 4 a.m, and I am not a night person. I was staying up till 4 a.m. reading my books and then getting an hour of sleep before I had to go catch the bus.
Awesome.
And then, I didn't really touch Tolkien again for a while after that. And then I got to college, and I found out about the Silmarillion. I heard about the Silmarillion. So I said, well, I liked The Lord of the Rings. Let me try the Silmarillion. And I just thoroughly loved the Silmarillion, and it completely changed the way that I read Tolkien's works. And so then I started doing my, okay, I have to read The Lord of the Rings every year, and I have to think about what it all means, and I have to read all of the articles that are out there, and so that's how I came to Tolkien.
Okay.
Awesome.
And what keeps bringing you back?
Reading Tolkien is a spiritual experience for me at this point. I get so much insight into my own personality by reading Tolkien, into the world around me. It's so rich. It's so filled with meaning that I just have to keep coming back and learning more because I get something new every time I read it.
Boy, that is so true.
Yeah,
that is so true.
I think it's quite true. I think as you change, your perception of the book changes so much. You get so much new every time. Well, with all that said, what's your favorite book in the Legendarium and why? And if you have one, what's your favorite non-Legendarium work by Tolkien too?
Okay, I'll answer the second one first because that's easier.
All right.
Okay.
My favorite non-Legendarium work is Leaf by Niggle.
Yay! It's another vote for my favorite.
I just read it for the first time last year, and I just love it. It's fantastic.
Isn't it?
It makes me tear up when I read it. It's so good.
Yeah,
every time.
And then favorite Legendarium work. Is it cheating to say whichever one I happen to be reading at the time?
Nope, I think that's a perfectly legit
valid.
answer.
That's valid. That works. All right. Well, what is your favorite memory of a Tolkien-related activity? You mentioned the VHS. What is this VHS you speak of? I'm sure many of our listeners are only vaguely familiar with them.
I'd have to say that my favorite memory is probably actually that class with my 7th grade teacher, with him doing all of the voices, and he brought in his first edition copy of The Hobbit and showed us it, and
oh, cool.
First edition. Wow.
Yeah. So, man, it was such a great experience. So
that would be.
Yeah.
That would be. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm officially jealous.
I'm sure he didn't let y'all touch it, right? He just
he read from it to us. That was what he read to us from.
Yeah.
So
you actually heard the original version of the story of Gollum. Of
when he read it, yes, but we had the copies we had were the 2nd edition or the whatever edition, the modern editions that you get from the paperbacks.
Wow.
That must have been interesting. So you're hearing him reading something now that's totally different from what's on the page.
Yeah, I remember it being very confusing.
You're like, this Gollum guy seems a lot more evil in my book. Yeah.
Right. He's a lot nastier now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and move on to our lightning round? Now, these are going to be quick questions and hopefully quick answers, although we break that rule sometimes, so you can't be blamed if you do.
True.
First one is going to be, what's the one place in Middle-earth you wish you could visit?
Oh, man. So if I could only pick one, I think I would have to pick Rivendell.
That's a pretty common answer. That's mine too. It's like,
I'm a pretty big book nerd, and I feel like it has the best library. So if
you're going to be stuck someplace, that's a good place to be. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's your favorite elf from the First Age?
Tough question. I think my favorite elf from the First Age is probably Galadriel, because she's my favorite elf and she's in the First Age.
There you go.
Okay.
But my favorite elf in the Silmarillion, since Galadriel doesn't necessarily have a big role in the Silmarillion.
True.
Except for her awesome scenes with Feanor.
Yeah.
Would probably be... I think I'm a pretty huge Finarfin fan.
Okay. That's a fair call. All right.
That's a good one. All right. Do you consider yourself a Merry or a Pippin?
A Pippin.
All right.
All right. Favorite poem or song in the Legendarium?
I think it's got to be All That Is Gold Does Not Glitter.
Ooh, yes. All right.
All right. I think I actually know the answer to this one already, but favorite author or book other than Tolkien?
Yes, my favorite work outside of anything Tolkien wrote, and really it's my favorite work altogether, is Dante's Comedy.
All right.
That's right. We've talked about that one not too long ago. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that one myself. It's been a long time since I read it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great.
Well, Joe, thank you. Those were some great answers. We have really enjoyed having you here in the North Wing, but for now, I think it's time for us to head back to the common room and join the rest of the listeners.
Thank you again, Joe, and we will see you back at our next Questions After Nightfall, I hope, if not sooner.
All right, thanks, guys.
Our pleasure. And now, folks, we return you to the podcast in progress. It is always great to have visitors to the North Wing, but now it's time to take Treebeard's ride share to Wellinghall in the second of 5 episodes on Treebeard. It's better than the one they had to take across the plains, wouldn't you say?
Please rate me 5 stars. Would you like a bottle of water?
A mint. All right. I have got you reading just a paragraph or so after we wrapped up the last episode.
And I'll start there.
All right.
At once he set off with long, deliberate strides through the trees, deeper and deeper into the wood, never far from the stream, climbing steadily up towards the slopes of the mountains. Many of the trees seemed asleep, or as unaware of him as of any other creature that merely passed by. But some quivered, and some raised up their branches above his head as he approached. All the while, as he walked, he talked to himself in a long, running stream of musical sounds. The hobbits were silent for some time. They felt, oddly enough, safe and comfortable, and they had a great deal to think and wonder about.
Indeed, they did.
As you do when you're being carried by a walking tree.
By a 14-foot tree? Yeah.
Through a forest that is moving its branches out of the way as it passes. Yeah.
That is a little creepy.
It is. Lots to stop and think about.
Lots to think about. Like, I don't think I want him to put me down right now because I'd be scared to death of these trees.
Remember the last time they ran across a seemingly sentient tree and it almost ate them?
It did. Well, it actually did eat them. It just
true,
also regurgitated them.
It just didn't swallow them. Yeah.
That's correct. That is correct. Thank you, Tom Bombadil. So Treebeard's carrying each hobbit in the crook of an arm, which is only a slight upgrade from being carried on the back like a sack of potatoes that they were in the last chapter.
Oh, I'd argue it's more than a slight upgrade, but
well,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. It can't be that comfortable with all that bark. It's probably a little rough.
Yeah, no. It's not like he's got hammocks hanging from his arms or anything.
No, wouldn't that be nice?
That's the way to travel by tree, is to have a hammock.
With a hammock? That would be a 5-star ride share.
Treebeard, could we hang these from your armpits?
You wouldn't mind, would you?
I'm not sure. Sorry. Please
so
continue.
Treebeard is taking these long, deliberate strides, and I just wanted to point that out because we will be talking about strides later.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We will.
Mm-hmm.
But he's keeping pretty close to the stream, and he's heading sort of up and into the wood as he goes.
Yeah.
But we really need to talk about the response of some of these trees. I mean, okay, yes, most of them are asleep, but some of them...
Quivering, raising branches. I mean, that's a little odd.
Yeah. The raising branches is really interesting to me. I almost imagine like they're doing the wave as he walks by.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure it's not that, but it's like there's this motion of, like one would raise their arms. I guess that's a way of saying hi or a token of respect or what is that?
I don't know. It's their equivalent of an Ent salute, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
But they'd be pretty tall and have pretty long arms because let's keep in mind, once again, he's 14 feet tall and they're putting their branches above his head.
That's true.
So
maybe they're just raising their branches just so he can pass, but
that could be.
But I still think this is kind of like a wave. No, that sounds silly, but there's a bit of a greeting there.
There is indeed.
So Treebeard.
Yeah. Treebeard's talking to himself. I love this. He's talking to himself the whole time, the entire time. Running stream of musical sounds.
But isn't that cool, though? A running stream of musical sounds.
I know. I do love that. Because that's their language when you hear it, when you eventually hear little bits of it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a musical language. And I'm reminded of another character that you just mentioned a moment ago, Tom Bombadil, who speaks in that kind of music, right?
Very much so, that sort of sing-songy verse thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just can't help but notice that these characters that are these sort of supernatural forces of nature, they speak in a kind of music. And
that makes sense.
I don't know if that's Tolkien dipping into his homebrew to think about
I wouldn't be surprised.
the importance of the music to creation, or what? Or maybe he just liked music.
Well, we know how much he likes music. He didn't
That is true.
consider himself musical, but he loved music
Right.
very much.
He did.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we said, the hobbits feel safe. They feel comfortable. They've got some time to think.
Well, yeah, they don't have to walk or do anything.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And again, all jokes aside, they really do have a lot to think about, because this is something that nobody could have seen coming.
No.
This whole experience. So
this is beyond anything that they had talked about. I mean, they knew that Fangorn was a weird place, and that's about as far as they got.
Right.
And who told them about that? Well, we're going to get to that, and that's where I'm going to pick up. Basically, of course, Celeborn has warned them, and Treebeard has a response to that.
Did he now?
Rumbled Treebeard.
And I might have said much the same if you had been going the other way. Do not risk getting tangled in the woods of Laurel Doranin. That is what the elves used to call it. But now they make the name shorter. Lothlorien, they call it. Perhaps they are right. Maybe it is fading, not growing. Land of the Valley of Singing Gold. That was it once upon a time. Now it is the Dream Flower. Oh well, but it is a queer place, and not for just anyone to venture in. I am surprised that you ever got out, but much more surprised that you ever got in. That does not happen to strangers for many a year. It is a queer land, and so is this. Folk have come to grief here. Aye, they have, to grief. Laurel and Doran and Linda Lauren or Malin or Nelia nor Namalin.
He hummed to himself.
They're falling rather behind the world in there, I guess,
he said.
Neither this country nor anything else outside the Golden Wood is what it was when Celeborn was young.
And I'll stop there. Mostly because I have to.
Mostly because you need some water. That voice is not easy on you, I know.
No, it is not.
So I'll take this next point. I mean, actually, before you started reading, you alluded to this, Pippin's question, hey, why did Celeborn warn us against this place?
I love that. And Treebeard's keeping score. Celeborn, who said what now?
You know who said we shouldn't come here? Celeborn.
That's right.
What do you think about that, Mr. Treebeard?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I'd have told you to stay away from him too. The same advice. Yeah. I love, though, how he talks about the old name for it, Laurelin Doranin.
Laurelin Doranin, yeah.
Yeah.
With the echo of Laurelin, the gold tree in it, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And Treebeard actually gives us the meanings of both of these names, which is kind of cool. He really spends some time thinking about the names.
Yeah.
So he talks about
names tell stories, remember? That's the thing with
Ents.
That's right.
Yeah. So even though these are elvish names, you would expect an Ent to look for a story in the name. So I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So he translates Land of the Valley of Singing Gold, which is what Laurelin Doranin means. Mm-hmm. And then Dream Flower, which is what Lothlorien means.
Oh, that is lovely.
That is really cool.
But it is shorter, and it does tell a significantly different story, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting because, the names have some similar sounds to them. You wouldn't think that they mean two totally different things, but there they do.
That's true.
Two totally different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then Treebeard has something to say about it. It's a strange place. I'm surprised that you got out, but you know what? I'm even more surprised that you got in the first place.
Yeah, that's a place that you just don't get past the bouncer at the door. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you don't just walk right up and open the door. And that's interesting because we talk about fairy a lot on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a neat reminder that there's fairy realms and there's fairy realms, and
yeah, that's true.
These may both be enchanted fairy perilous realms, but they're totally different from each other. They actually consider each other weird and perilous.
That's true. I mean, Treebeard here very much talking about Lothlorien being a queer land, and Celeborn warning them, don't go into Fangorn.
Yeah. It's not like, all the elves are like, oh, yeah, we're tight with the Ents. You guys can
That's
go there.
right.
Here's the password and just, come right,
Yeah,
it's
just
nothing
ask
like
for
that.
Fangorn.
Yeah.
Tell him Celeborn sent you.
It's like,
yeah.
Us, the immortals who have been alive for thousands of years and who came from over the sea.
We think that place is strange. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know we're a little odd, but we're nothing compared to them. Yeah.
Those guys are weird.
That's a good point. I mean, talk about, pot calling the kettle black here.
Right.
In both cases. Yeah, they're both kind of talking bad about the other, but yeah.
Well, I don't know about bad.
Bad's the wrong word. I shouldn't. They're both observing that, hey, these are really unusual places.
The strangeness of each other's places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, of course, Treebeard speaks some Quenya here. And this is an example that we'll see a lot of Ents speaking other languages instead of Entish. And they do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. They do. And in Parma El Delambron 17 and in letter number 230. Are you kidding me? 230.
Seriously? My notes only say letter 230. You had to throw in the Parma El Delambron number 17.
Of course I did. Anytime I've got an opportunity to look up language, I'm going to look up Parma El Delambron 17.
Of course you are. I understand.
In that and in letter number 230 to Rona Bear, Tolkien confirms what you probably already guessed, that yes, this is not Entish. This is Elvish. Tolkien confirmed that Treebeard is using ancient Elvish words mixed up and run together in Entish fashion. The elements are laure, gold, not the metal but the color, what we should call golden light, Ndor or Nor, land or country, Lin, lind, a musical sound, Malina, yellow, Orne, tree, Lor, dream, Nan, Nand, valley. So that roughly he means the valley where the trees and a golden light sing musically, a land of music and dreams. There are yellow trees there. It is a tree-yellow land.
There you go.
So yeah, obviously, the Ents have a way of just sticking word elements together and getting
They really do. It's like
it.
very conglomerative. They just kind of lump it all together.
Yeah, they don't really seem to have to, use syntax the way, use the normal syntax of the language.
It's almost quite literally a word salad. I mean, they just throw the elements in a bowl together and kind of stir them up.
Yeah.
But they're lovely elements.
But not a wooden bowl. And they don't use the wooden.
Not a wooden bowl. No. Goodness, no. I knew that bowl when it was young.
Yep.
Speaking of young, he points out at the very end that the world, everything outside of Lothlorien, the world is a very different place than it was when Celeborn was young, as of course Treebeard would remember when Celeborn was young, I would guess.
Yes, he would remember when Celeborn was young. But I do like that Treebeard acknowledges that really everything is different, and he himself is different too. It's not what it used to be when Celeborn was young.
Yeah.
I like that. I think it's cool that Treebeard recognizes that, even though he's just that old too, he's gone through some change himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has. That's true. Well, as we make our way to Welling Hall, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com.
Yeah, all the good stuff is there. Show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, as well as our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have there is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books that we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of different Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the library page with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, so thank you for your support.
And of course, even though we are a book-based podcast, we have talked about the movies from time to time, even when our opinions have differed.
True.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But I think that we both agree that what Howard Shore did with the music for those movies was essential for bringing the world of Middle-earth to life. And if you love the music of the Lord of the Rings films like we do, you should take a listen to the Music of Middle-earth podcast.
Yes, you should. Jordan Rennells, friend of the PPP and our sound editor, is exploring every theme Howard Shore put together for the films, one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just started a whole new revamped season 2 of his podcast.
He's getting into the themes for Gollum about now, and will soon be exploring the Elven and Dwarvish themes as well. So if you are interested in learning more about how these themes are built and how they help evoke Tolkien's work, check out the Music of Middle-earth podcast on your favorite podcast app.
If you're going to be making a journey of thousands of Ent strides through Fangorn Forest, you just know you're going to need good socks. Well, fortunately, Bombas makes the most comfortable socks in the history of feet.
Yes, indeed. They have addressed all the little details to make their socks, frankly, way more comfy than anything else I've ever worn.
Oh, absolutely. I wear them every day. I mean, they are warm enough, but they breathe really well. They work for all types of weather, with shoes, without shoes, anything.
Absolutely. And they last, too. The thing that drives me nuts is pulling a pair of socks up over my calf, and by the end of the day, they're just loose around my ankles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to admit this. I can wear them for 2 or 3 days, and the elastic doesn't give. In theory.
All right, man.
In theory.
You do you, man.
All right. Well, the thing is, look, it started with their running socks, but now I wear their no-show socks, their cycling socks, and then those comfy merino wool crew socks. They're truly the best socks I've ever owned.
I do love the no-shows. But I got to say, the reason we're proud to support Bombas socks isn't just because they're cozy. It's because they give back to the most vulnerable members of our community.
For every pair of socks you buy, Bombas donates a pair to somebody in need. Customers like you have allowed them to donate over 40 million pairs of socks through a huge network of giving partners.
And that impact right now is more powerful than ever. You know, for those experiencing homelessness, these socks not only keep their feet warm, but they give them the dignity of putting on clean clothes.
That's right. So give a pair when you buy a pair and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/PPP.
That's BOMBAS.com/PPP for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/PPP.
And now it's time for Treebeard to explain a bit more about Ents. And Sean, I'm going to have you pick up.
Okay, I'm going to pick up right where you left off.
Quite literally at the very end of the paragraph, yes.
Still, Taurali Lomea Tumbalemona Tumbala Tauria Lomea Nor. That is what they used to say. Things have changed, but it is still true in places.
What do you mean? Said Pippin. What is true?
The trees and the Ents,
Said Treebeard.
I do not understand all that goes on myself, so I cannot explain it to you. Some of us are still true Ents, and lively enough in our fashion. But many are growing sleepy, going tree-ish, as you might say. Most of the trees are just trees, of course, but many are half awake. Some are quite wide awake, and a few are, getting entish. That is going on all the time. When that happens to a tree, you find that some have bad hearts. Nothing to do with their wood. I do not mean that. Why, I knew some good old willows down the Ent Wash, gone long ago, alas. They were quite hollow. Indeed, they were falling all to pieces, but as quiet and sweet-spoken as a young leaf. And then there are some trees in the valleys under the mountains, sound as a bell and bad right through. That sort of thing seems to spread. There used to be some very dangerous spots in this country. There are still some very black patches.
Like the old forest away to the north, do you mean? Asked Mary.
Aye, something like, but much worse. I do not doubt there is some shadow of the great darkness lying there, still away north, and bad memories are handed down. But there are hollow dales in this land where the darkness has never been lifted, and the trees are older than I am.
You know, that's actually pretty terrifying.
Trees older than Treebeard?
And places where the darkness has never been lifted. We'll get to what the great darkness is, and when you realize it's been a long time, that's a scary, scary thought. Yeah, but we'll start at the beginning where Treebeard speaks more Quenya, and we see in Appendix F that this is translated, and we talked about this last week, as Forest Many-Shadowed, Deep Valley Black, Deep Valley Forest, and Gloomy Land, also known as the first test run for Disneyland. The focus group said no, meaning there is a black shadow in the deep dales of the forest.
Yep. Also disapproved by the focus group.
Also disapproved, yes. Exactly. I think Thankfully, it was the same focus group that said Johnston's Fluid Beef was not an appropriate name for Bovril.
Yep. Deep Valley Forested Gloomy Land and Johnston's Fluid Beef both ended up on the
those are on the floor. Yeah, no chance.
Yeah. Since you brought up us mentioning this last time, I want to bring up that stuff we talked about from Jim Allen and Helga Fevskanger. Remember Jim Allen's observation about Entish being full of repetitions upon repetitions with slight variations? And he talked about this sort of spiral fashion that the language has.
Yeah, I remember that exactly.
That's exactly what we see here in Treebeard's use of Quenya. I mean, notice the repetition of word elements.
Yeah.
So you've got this taure that shows up at the very beginning, and then it shows up again later on in the third word.
Right.
You've got this lomea, which is repeated. It's at the end of the first word, and then it is at the beginning of the last word. You've got tumbale in the two middle words.
Right.
You've even got this or sound that repeats in the second word and the fourth word. So it's almost as if actually almost every syllable is repeated at least once. And
yeah, pretty much.
It really feels as though different morphemes, different elements of the words have been chopped up, repeated, and then put back together again in a different order.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again, going back to what we were saying a moment ago, this would not make any kind of syntactic sense in most Western languages, which is why forest, many shadow, deep valley, yada, yada, just sounds like gibberish.
He just yada, yada, Treebeard again.
I yada, yada it again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. He'll forgive you.
But in Entish, it actually has meaning.
Right, right.
And again, it's just, you get a sense of the Entish mind when you think about the brain of a creature that talks like this and that can make sense of this. And you get this idea of this sort of spiraling effect, these repetitions. And I really would love to hear like a psychologist write an article.
Ooh. Okay.
Or like a psycholinguist or something, write an article on Entish use of Elvish speech, because I think it would be a fascinating study to think about what does this say about the way they think? Because I think it says some very interesting things. Their brains just seem to work very differently from ours.
Oh, yeah, which makes sense, but yeah.
It does. It does. But again, we talked about how there's the free peoples. We talked about that in the last episode. There's the free peoples. Ents count themselves right among elves and men and dwarves. Yeah. They put themselves in the list right between elves and dwarves, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. And we talked about that being in the order that they...
Order of awakening.
Awakening, right.
But though they may consider themselves among the free peoples, they are totally different. They are just
they're not people at all. Yeah,
they're not. No, their brains just work completely differently, and I just think that's fascinating.
It really is fascinating.
Going back to the specific elements of those words that Treebeard chops up and puts back together like so much word salad.
Right.
Tolkien actually translates those specific morphemes in letter number 230, and he confirms the translation that he gives in Appendix F. He says, the same applies to the last line on that page, where the elements are taure, forest, tumba, deep valley, moor, darkness, lome, night. So all that combines to give you the black shadow in the deep dales.
The black shadow in the deep dales. That's, and it is still true in places.
Yeah.
All right. So what Treebeard's saying though is, look, some Ents remain Ents, right? Some of us are still true Ents, lively enough, but others are growing tree-ish.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, most trees are still trees.
Right.
But some are waking and some are getting Entish.
So we have this sort of migration, but it's not going in one direction. Both ends are moving towards
more towards the center. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But in the meantime, what happens when that happens, right?
I think it's interesting that Treebeard says he doesn't understand all this.
No, you're right. He doesn't.
You would think that as old as he is, and I once upon a time, I think we speculated that he was a Maya. I don't think he is anymore.
No.
And I think this kind of dispels any lingering notions that he might be. You would think he would have a greater understanding of it if he...
That's true.
If he was a more powerful being. I think the fact that he doesn't understand all this just tells us that...
Yeah, he is limited. He's a finite creature.
I mean, I guess Maya are finite too, but yeah, he just seems more finite, I guess.
Well, right.
But yeah, that's absolutely fascinating to me that he...
Cannot explain it to you.
If he doesn't understand it, who does?
That's a very good point. If there's anybody in this world...
Probably Yavanna. That's about it.
That's right. But he does understand what happens when this process takes place, right?
Yes,
you start to learn the quality of the tree.
Yes.
You know, that he doesn't mean the physical quality, the quality of the wood. He's talking about the heart of the wood. So he gives us an example of these hollow old willows that were quiet but good. And then to the contrary, these really physically strong trees that are bad right through. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Mary picks up immediately on what he's talking about, right? He just jumps in like, you mean like the old forest.
And that tree that tried to eat us. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
This is the second time that he's encountered a seemingly sentient tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in his mind, he should connect these two things. But I think it's cool that he just picks up on it so quickly.
I think so too, especially because, there's a pretty big difference. Old Man Willow never spoke. Old Man Willow certainly didn't walk or move.
Right.
He just had, I guess, the mouth, the trap door, whatever you want to call it,
I guess that was enough. But
that was enough. But what I find interesting here is that Treebeard knows what he's talking about when he refers to the old forest.
That tells me that Mary's right. Like, Mary is right to draw this connection. And
yes, he is.
Like, yes, absolutely. Just,
Treebeard doesn't say, what old forest? What are you talking about?
Right. He knows that place, and he knows that there is a connection there to what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And then he gives what he thinks is an explanation. He says that he thinks that there's some shadow of the great darkness. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly.
We will.
But he talks about the fact that there are just some places where that great darkness still lies. And those places are old. Really, really
very,
old.
Very old. We will talk about that a little bit more.
Older than I am, and that's old.
Shut up.
No, I'm talking about Treebeard.
Oh, I thought you were talking about yourself. And I'm thinking, don't you dare tell me you're old, Sean, because then
no,
that makes me older. I'm very sensitive to that now.
I understand that.
No,
and I can see why you thought I was going there, but no, I just meant Treebeard.
I do.
He's like,
this is a really good opportunity for all the old jokes. I mean, when Celeborn was young was a great opportunity for an old joke.
Yes, it is.
The world is very different than when Alan was young. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't say it, Sean, so I did it for you.
I don't want to do that anymore.
Oh, I'm teasing. It's all right.
It's such low-hanging fruit. I mean...
Fair enough. All right. Well, before I make a fool of myself any further, not before I avoid it because it's too late for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pick up exactly where you left off, and we're going to talk about kind of what Ents do, right? We've talked about kind of what they are not really. We've talked about what they aren't. They aren't trees.
That's true.
They're something like trees, and they can become tree-ish, and some of the trees are growing Ent-ish, but what does an Ent do? What defines an Ent? So he says,
still we do what we can. We keep off strangers and the foolhardy, and we train and we teach, we walk and we weed. We are tree herds, we old Ents. Few enough of us are left now. Sheep get like shepherd, and shepherds like sheep, it is said. But slowly, and neither have long in the world. It is quicker and closer with trees and Ents, and they walk down the ages together. For Ents are more like elves, less interested in themselves than men are, and better at getting inside other things. And yet again, Ents are more like men, more changeable than elves are, and quicker at taking the color of the outside, you might say. Or better than both, for they are steadier and keep their minds on things longer. Some of my kin look just like trees now, and need something great to rouse them, and they speak only in whispers. But some of my trees are limb-lithe, and many can talk to me. Elves began it, of course, waking trees up, and teaching them to speak, and learning their tree talk. They always wished to talk to everything, the old elves did. But then the great darkness came, and they passed away over the sea, or fled into far valleys and hid themselves, and made songs about days that would never come again. Never again.
And on that sorrowful note, I'll stop the reading.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, like you said, this is all about what the Ents do.
Yeah.
And he starts about, what's our day-to-day task? What's our typical work day look like?
Well, we clock in and,
right, spend the first 45 minutes keeping some strangers away. Then the next 3 hours, I keep fools away. Then I do some training, some teaching, a little walking, a little weeding.
And then I weed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Always after the lunch break, though. Yeah.
Interesting about strangers and fools.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently not, because Merry and Pippin are strangers.
One might argue fools.
Well, Gandalf would certainly argue that one of them is a fool.
Pippin is, right, yeah.
So obviously Gandalf didn't share that with Treebeard if he talked to him, which we think he did.
If he wasn't dead, because he's dead, right?
Except, yeah, sure,
yeah.
He's dead.
So, yeah. So we're tree herds, right? And we immediately get an understanding of what he means. We're shepherds, we're tree herds, because he immediately brings up that analogy to sheep. The sheep get like shepherds and vice versa.
Yeah. Okay, sheep get like shepherds. That sounds to me like it would be a proverb in the real world. Do you know anything about this? I mean, is it a real, well, first of all, I guess, is it a real proverb that you've ever heard? Or is it even a real phenomenon? Like, is there, I don't know why I think you've got any shepherd expertise, but I mean, when you spend all day around sheep and not people, do you get more sheep-like? Is that,
I don't know,
kind of a thing in the real world?
I would imagine, I don't know, it's, a real phenomenon. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if that expression or that proverb may be influenced by a lot of the large number of biblical parables that compare people to sheep.
Oh, that could be, yeah.
Given Tolkien's background, maybe with Jesus as the shepherd. In this case, though, the fact that the shepherd becomes like the sheep doesn't fit especially well with that theory.
True.
So that might not work. But
I don't know. I mean, you're right. There are a lot of biblical parables about sheep and shepherds. So yeah, maybe that's it.
Which is not a surprise, given that we're talking about, first century Near Eastern time period.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah,
maybe that's all this is. I'm just curious. I don't really know anything about shepherds and sheep.
I know very little about them.
Yeah. Oh well. Maybe somebody out there has some answers for us. Maybe there is maybe there is some old folk wisdom that says that, sheep get like their shepherds, shepherds get like their sheep. If you know anything about it, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, then he comes along and he draws some other comparisons, right? He talks about some of the similarities between Ents and elves.
Right before listing the similarities between Ents and men.
Right. Kind of putting Ents somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I like this idea that they're in the middle of the spectrum of both self-interest, right?
Uh-huh.
Less self-interested than elves, but more so than men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Less interested in themselves than men are, but maybe more so than elves are. And then they're also in the middle of this changeability spectrum.
Yeah.
Right? They're more changeable than elves and less so than men.
That makes sense.
And I dare say also that they have more time for the changes to work on them than men do, right? I mean, it would take a long time for humans to change as much as Ents do, because Ents live for so long.
That's a good point.
But, with all that said, I mean, he kind of course, probably somewhat selfishly, sees that there are advantages over both. He sees Ents as sort of being this perfect middle path between elves and men.
Absolutely. I mean, he does talk about the advantages over both. And then he goes on to describe the state of some of his fellow Ents. Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks a bit about, well, we talked about this actually. We talked about the elves and their role in Ents learning how to speak. We talked about this last time, I believe.
That's right.
And it's not all that clear here. Here it almost makes it sound like elves taught Ents to speak. But what we learned last time was that elves didn't necessarily teach the Ents their language, but they awoke the Ents' desire to speak.
That's correct. And if you read this line with that in mind, you will see that. Teaching them to speak and learning their tree talk.
Yeah.
So the elves started to learn the speech of the Ents, but they taught them to speak. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. And I love the idea that they always wish to talk to everything.
Of course they did.
About the elves.
Those old elves
being like the original linguists,
Hello, rock. Hello, can you speak? No, you can't speak? What about you, blade of grass? No. What about you, tree? Oh, you speak. Let me speak.
Can you imagine early elves just walking around talking to everything and just
everything.
And just every time something actually talks back, then they just write it down in their little notebook.
That's right. They just
trees, check.
There
Rocks,
you go.
Nope.
No. I love that idea. So then Treebeard mentions again, and we're going to touch on this just real briefly. Then the great darkness came, and the elves passed away over the sea, or fled or hid. What is the great darkness? It's referring to the time when Morgoth dominated Middle-earth. This is not Sauron and the darkness of, the late Second Age or anything like this. This is ancient stuff. This is way back when Morgoth was in charge, before the War of Wrath. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then he talks about the elves in a way that shows that obviously he was there, right? Because he describes him very accurately, talking about how basically all the things they did, they passed away over the sea. We know a lot of them did that. They fled into far valleys and hid themselves. They made songs about days that would never come again. That's
and that's very
Silmarillion,
Elvish, isn't it?
basically.
Yeah, it is. That is the Silmarillion right there. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, his recollections of those days are clearly very personal.
Yeah.
I was there, man. I was there. And then, we didn't read it because, again, we can't read everything. He's got a very personal description of what those days were like. I could walk and sing all day. I wish I could read that whole passage. Hearing no more than the echo of my own voice, I just did read that passage.
We won't read the rest.
But... You know what? Go back to a Tolkien reading day because I know I read that passage before.
I'm sure you did. Yeah.
I remember used to spend a week just breathing line. I don't know why. I just really remember that. But
how cool is that, man? That's a serene image. Just
to spend a week just breathing.
That would be.
Maybe we should do that. Should we do a week-long podcast of just us breathing?
Sure. Honestly, I think if we did a 100-minute podcast of just us breathing, I think we'd have people revolting.
Probably. They could put it on repeat, though, if they wanted to.
I imagine the sound of us breathing heavily into microphones is pretty revolting.
That probably is, yeah. That's disturbing on 1,000 levels,
it is.
Sean. It really is. So let's move past that. Sean, I'm going to go ahead and have you pick up there then with Treebeard, just as he's about to, sing or chant or whatever it is he does here.
All right. Treebeard fell silent, striding along, and yet making hardly a sound with his great feet. Then he began to hum again, and passed into a murmuring chant. Gradually, the hobbits became aware that he was chanting to them.
In the willow meads of Tessarion, I walked in the spring. Ah, the sight and the smell of the spring in Nan Tessarion. And I said that was good. I wandered in summer in the elm woods of Osiriant. Ah, the light and the music in the summer by the 7 rivers of Osir. And I thought that was best. To the beaches of Neldereth I came in the autumn. Ah, the gold and the red and the sighing of leaves in the autumn in Tower Naneldor. It was more than my desire.
And then because we can't read all of the work, we're going to skip towards the end here.
And now all those lands lie under the wave, and I walk in Ambarona and Tower in Morna, in Aulalome, in my own land, in the country of Fangorn, where the roots are long, and the years lie thicker than the leaves in Tower and Morna Lome.
Oh, goodness, Professor. Mm-hmm. I love listening to him read this stuff. I mean,
I
I enjoy doing it myself, but I'd rather listen to him every single time.
It's fun to read it yourself, though. I'm not going to say, I mean, obviously he doesn't. No. Nobody does it like he does.
It's just
I'm sure it's more fun to listen to him than it is to listen to us.
Well, yeah.
But I enjoy doing it. It's fun to do.
Oh, I do too.
Especially the poetry.
I would have liked to have been able to read a stanza as well, but I couldn't have you read some and me read some. And
there would have been none left. It's not that long of a poem.
No,
I know.
It really just isn't. So let's get back to the beginning here. He's humming, but then the humming starts turning to chanting, and then they realize, oh, he's chanting to them.
Yeah.
This isn't just his talking to himself in a musical way like he had.
Yeah, his like little chattering that he was doing earlier. He's actually,
that's the distinction.
He's chanting to them. He's telling them
a story.
This story. So let's talk a little bit about the structure of
I was about to ask you. You're our poet expert here.
Oh, well, I try. Yeah, so the song is printed as all one stanza, but you can actually make a little bit better sense of it if you analyze it in 4 tercets. Those are groups of 3 lines, and then a final sestet, which is a group of 6 lines. Okay. So even though there's no spaces, just sort of imagine 3, 3, 3, 3, and then 6.
Right.
Now, the first line of each tercet mentions a place, a type of tree, a season, and an action, whether it's walking or wandering or whatever.
Right.
All of that is in the first line of each tercet. So you've got.
So if we look at the willow meads in Tessarion and in spring, and that he was walking.
Spring. Yep.
And the next time he was wandering.
Summer, Elmwoods, Osirion.
Colonel Mustard in the library with the candlestick.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah.
So that's the first line of each tercet.
Right.
The second line of each group of 3 makes an observation about that place and uses another form of the place name in the first line.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So you've got the sight and the smell of the spring in Nan Tessarion.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized it also repeats the season again too, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right, it does.
That. Yeah, in all four of them, he repeats the season again in the second line. And notice that the second form of the name,
Mm-hmm.
so Tessarion to Nan Tessarion,
Right.
the second form of the name is kind of a mixed up or an inverted form of the
Right.
first form.
Mhm.
Osirion to Seven Rivers of Osir,
Mhm.
Neldereth to Tower na Neldor,
Dorthonion to Oradnathon.
Oradnathon, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. That's actually technically, I guess, a different place, but it's a place in Dorthonion.
That's true. It is a location within it, right?
But the structure, the way he breaks up these word elements and puts them back together in a different order, that has the same kind of repetition and spiraling effect that we saw with the Entish use of Quenya,
Yeah.
that we saw with the Tumbala, all that stuff. Even though this poem is in Westron, he still speaks Westron the same way he speaks Quenya.
With that same spiraling effect.
Exactly. That's, again, fascinating
Wow.
because, again, it gives you a sense of the way the Entish mind works.
Yeah, it really does. I love that. And then these final 6 lines, this ending sestet, laments the loss of each of those beautiful places. And,
yes.
you know, when we read this in the Silmarillion, we know that all these places are from Beleriand, and they were
Right.
lost. All of them were lost at the end of the First Age,
Right.
when Beleriand was drowned into the sea.
Right. So this is another lament. It's almost a bit like Galadriel's laments that we saw in the last book,
Yep.
where you're describing the beauty of these places and then lamenting the fact that they're gone.
They are no more.
Yeah.
They are no more. That's right. And so let's go ahead and break down some of these place names and remind our listeners where they were back in the Elder days.
Okay.
Now, folks may want to go back and listen to episode 24. That would be the map chapter of Beleriand and its realms for a review of the geography. But
There you go.
Yeah.
So the first one we've got in the first tercet is Tessarion, also known as Nan Tessarion.
so that's Quenya, Willowvale, and that's in place of Sindarin Nan Tathrin. So Sindarin Nan Tathrin comes from Quenya Nan Tessarion, and they both mean Willowvale. And the location is where Narog flows into Sirion.
Thank you for that. And then in the next tercet, we've got Osiriand, also known as the Seven Rivers of Osir.
Right. And of course, that would be Gelion and his 6 tributaries. Some of this land did survive the floods as Linden, which is to the west of the Ered Luin.
That's right. And I think one of the rivers basically became the Gulf of Lune, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And then we've got the beaches of Neldereth, also known as Tower na Neldor.
Right, right.
Appropriately enough, Tower na Neldor means beach forest and is just another name for Neldereth. And so it's fitting that he mentions the beaches there.
Yes, yes. And we're talking about the beach
Beaches
trees,
with
not the
2
sandy
E's,
beaches.
not the beaches. Yeah.
I love the beaches there, all the white sand beaches. And you know.
I used to go surfing.
I'm imagining a 14-foot tall surfer. He'd have to have a very long board.
But not made of wood.
I mean, really. No, of course not. Well, no. Come on. Who has boards made out of wood these days?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me, Californian?
Pretty much nobody.
Really?
I believe they're all
What, are
fiberglass.
they made of fiberglass?
Yeah. Super light and yeah.
Not much surfing in Central Texas.
No, not much. And I hope I hope for your sake there's never any surfing in Central Texas.
Yep.
May you
The
never have
world
to worry
has
about
changed.
surfing.
I can surf in Austin.
That would be a problem. Oh my goodness. All right. So next up, of course, and this is the part that we didn't read for copyright reasons, Dorthonion and Oradnathon.
Yes. And Dorthonion means land of pines.
Mhm.
Remember, that was a highland in the north of Beleriand.
Yeah.
Now, as I mentioned, Oradnathon is actually not another name for that place. It's actually a mountain in Dorthonion.
Right.
And probably recognize the Orad element in that means mountain.
Mhm.
That simply means pine mountain. Oradnathon.
And Thon, just like Dorthonion.
Right.
Thon
Pine.
is
Yep.
pine. Mhm.
Yep.
And then we get Amberona, Tauramorna, Aldalome, and Tauramornalome. I love saying those. Can I say them again? Amberona, Tauramorna, Aldalome, and Tauramornalome.
Especially because you're so much better at rolling your R's than I am.
I'm getting better.
Salute you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Going back to these beautiful place names that you pronounced so well, Hammond and Scull tell us that in Tolkien's Unfinished Index, Amberona is the ancient name of a region and that it means uprising, sunrise, or orient, from the Quenya Amba, upwards, and Rona east.
Oh, okay.
And guess where this is corroborated?
Oh, no.
Parma El de Lambron, number 17.
Good heavens, man.
Where it's translated as Eastern Land. So, meaning basically the same thing.
I'm Sean. I am superior. I have Parma El de Lambron 17.
Look, I paid for it. I'm going to use it, man.
You should. It's
secondhand copies of those out of print Parmas are not cheap.
I know they're not. I can't even find them. Yeah,
they're hard to find.
Oh, goodness.
Also in that index, we get Taura Morna as Black Forest and Aldalome as Tree Twilight.
As Tree Twilight. I love that. I love that. Well, in the little bit afterwards that we don't read, I love that we get that he strode on silently, and yes, I'm reading this. As far as ear could reach, there was not a sound.
Oh, just utter silence.
Total silence. What a beautiful moment to absorb all those words and the loveliness of that language.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful
Stunning
moment.
stuff.
Well, next they're going to be heading towards Welling Hall, aren't they?
Right.
You're going to take us there next.
Yeah, I will. Treebeard strode up the slope, hardly slackening his pace. Suddenly before them, the hobbits saw a wide opening. 2 great trees stood there, one on either side, like living gateposts, but there was no gate save their crossing and interwoven boughs. As the old Ent approached, the trees lifted up their branches, and all their leaves quivered and rustled. For they were evergreen trees, and their leaves were dark and polished, and gleamed in the twilight. Beyond them was a wide level space, as though the floor of a great hall had been cut in the side of the hill. On either hand, the walls sloped upwards until they were 50 feet high or more, and along each wall stood an aisle of trees that also increased in height as they marched inwards. At the far end, the rock wall was sheer, but at the bottom it had been hollowed back into a shallow bay with an arched roof, the only roof of the hall, save the branches of the trees, which at the inner end overshadowed all the ground, leaving only a broad open path in the middle. A little stream escaped from the springs above, and leaving the main water, fell tinkling down the sheer face of the wall, pouring in silver drops like a fine curtain in front of the arched bay. The water was gathered again into a stone basin in the floor between the trees, and thence it spilled and flowed away beside the open path, out to rejoin the Entwash in its journey through the forest.
All right, so going back to the paragraph you didn't read before
Yeah.
that passage, we see that day is ending,
Right.
and the hobbits see that they've come to the foot of the mountains. So we
Yes.
see that the springs of the Entwash are above. There's this treeless slope on the right.
Right. And in fact, day really has ended because now stars are shining in the lakes.
Yep.
And that's when they come upon this opening on the slope that is guarded by these 2 great evergreen trees and the boughs that come together.
And once again, these trees lift up their branches at the approach
exactly.
of Treebeard. So this does seem to be
Oh, yeah.
at least partially to let him pass.
Mm-hmm. Which makes you think that they wouldn't let anybody else pass.
Right.
A little terrifying.
None shall pass.
Except for you, Treebeard. So it's this level space, really, between 2 kind of walls of the mountain. And you've got these trees along the side of the walls.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting location.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Elvish Hall from Book 1.
It does. I was thinking the same thing.
Gildor
at Woody End.
Yes, right. Gildor took the hobbits there in Three His Company.
Yes.
It's like this idea of a hall that it's a hall, but it's not. It hasn't been
It's
built.
an outdoor hall, right?
Yeah, it's just, nature.
A natural, narrowish corridor with tall trees creating the space. Yeah.
Yeah. There's this rock wall at the back that's been
Yes.
hollowed out at the bottom. And it seems like it gets narrower too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Because the trees actually overshadowed the ground at the inner end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, does it say that it narrows? Because it definitely does.
I mean, no, it doesn't exactly, but it
No,
does say...
you have to kind of draw that conclusion from the idea that as they get closer...
As they get closer, there's only a little path in the middle.
Right,
Yeah.
right. A little path down the middle. Do you know how hard it was to not say that in the middle of the read?
I can imagine, yeah. Only slightly higher than the other, so you get the 2-level effect with a little path running down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, uh-huh.
It's all shrubberies here. The whole chapter is just
It's
shrubbery
just filled
upon
with shrubberies.
shrubbery upon shrubbery.
Absolutely. So this small stream coming from the springs above, and it comes down that rock wall like a curtain, like a fine curtain. What a beautiful sight that is. A little tiny waterfall.
You know what that reminds me of?
Henneth
Anun.
Anun. Indeed it does.
You know, the waterfall curtain. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. That's a lovely thought. So then, of course, the waters are gathered and then rejoins the Entwash. So it's just a little diversion. Yeah. It's what we do. It's what the Entwash does. What can we say?
That's right.
And then it rejoins the Entwash. And that is where I'm going to have you pick up. We're going to get a little talk about the walking.
All right.
Here we are,
said Treebeard, breaking his long silence.
I have brought you about 70,000 strides. But what that comes to in the measurement of your land, I do not know. Anyhow, we are near the roots of the last mountain. Part of the name of this place might be Welling Hall, if it were turned into your language. I like it. We will stay here tonight.
He set them down on the grass between the aisles of the trees, and they followed him towards the great arch. The hobbits now noticed that as he walked, his knees hardly bent. But his legs opened in a great stride. He planted his big toes, and they were indeed big and very broad, on the ground first, before any other part of his feet. For a moment Treebeard stood under the rain of the falling spring, and took a deep breath. Then he laughed, and passed inside. A great stone table stood there, but no chairs. At the back of the bay it was already quite dark. Treebeard lifted 2 great vessels and stood them on the table. They seemed to be filled with water, but he held his hands over them, and immediately they began to glow, one with a golden and the other with a rich green light, and the blending of the 2 lights lit the bay as if the sun of summer was shining through a roof of young leaves.
Sitting at the back of the bay.
I was like, is that Otis Redding? Is he actually doing Otis Redding? And he is.
Sitting at the back of the bay, watching the lights roll in, man. I mean,
in the morning sun.
Sorry about that. When we said at the back of the bay, that's literally the only thing I could think of the rest of the reading.
And when Treebeard sits in the back of the bay, wasting time,
he
wastes
a lot of time.
We don't waste time unless there's
a lot of time,
to waste.
And the time is very worth wasting.
There it is. I love that. That is beautiful. Well, let's go back to the beginning of the passage. This is what I was talking about the walking. 70,000 strides. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, Treebeard may not know exactly how long that is in our measurements, but we can figure it out.
Well, we can try.
Thanks to Hammond and Scull and their access to the Marquette manuscripts, where we find that Tolkien, not surprisingly, did the math here.
Yeah.
Tolkien says that an Ent would take nearly 9 hours to do 70,000 strides, and presumably in that time would go 70,000 yards at least. At least. I gotta think at least.
Well, I was going to say, then he says exactly probably 4 feet a
then
stride.
He says probably 4 feet a stride. I would think it's
my recollection is a yard is 3 feet, so I think he means a little bit more, yeah. At least is the minimum.
Don't you think it's got to be even more than 4 feet? I don't know.
It's got to be.
4 feet seems like a rather small stride.
A very small stride for a 14-foot tall creature. Yeah.
But that's Tolkien's number, so I'll go with that.
Fair enough.
Hammond and Scull do a little bit more math, and they say that this means about 2.2 strides of 4 feet per second, covering a distance of 53 miles, which is over 85 kilometers, at a speed of about 6 miles per hour.
And that's a gentle stroll, because they quote another note from Tolkien saying that Ents are, and this is a quote of Tolkien's, Ents are, as long as they can drink running water, almost tireless. They can go at around 12 miles an hour, averaging, say, 10 hours, even 24 at a stretch. Max speed of Treebeard was 20 miles an hour when charging. That's very fast indeed.
Yeah.
12 miles an hour is a pace of just a little over 2 hours, 10 minutes for a marathon, which is very close to world record time.
Right, yeah.
And then the 20 mile an hour max, that's 32 kilometers an hour. That is a full-blown sprint. I mean, the current world record for the 100 meter, that's Usain Bolt's 9.58. That is an average speed of 23.3 miles per hour, though he was clocked at a peak of 28. Still,
Okay.
20 miles an hour,
That's fast.
that's really, really, really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a handful of players on an NFL football field reach the speed of 20 miles an hour, the wide receivers when they're in the middle of their deep routes. But yeah, that's a very fast speed.
But this is meant to be fast. I mean, these
Of
are
course.
trees. They're tall. They have long strides. That's why I feel like 4 feet a stride I feel like that's got to be an underestimate.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, it makes sense that they would be this fast. And it's, again, I think another subtle reminder of just the awesome power of nature that they can do this. And he moves so quickly at such a gentle stroll, as you said.
That's the
6
thing.
miles per hour. Yeah.
Just a nice little saunter,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm still imagining, though, it's not just that 20 mile an hour max that's so impressive. It's the idea that they can go 10 hours or even 24 at 12 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Now, the marathon runners are only going to do that for about 2 hours.
About 2
and then they're going
hours,
to keel
2.5
over
hours.
and die.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And an ant can do that for 24 hours if
All
they
day.
have access to water.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Pretty
That is
awesome.
some serious endurance. Yeah.
Nature's
No
pretty
doubt
awesome,
about it.
man.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So he's brought them to basically near the roots of Methydras, which is the last
Right.
mountain in the Misty Mountains. And that's what he calls it.
Mm-hmm. And the hobbits notice more about how Treebeard walks during this. They see that his knees don't really bend, but his legs have this big stride, and of course the big toes, and that he actually walks toes first, which is
Toe to
interesting.
heel. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It would be hard to fit him with running shoes, though.
Quite.
I mean, talking
Yeah.
about trying to get him to complete a marathon and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be hard to fit him with running shoes anyway, but
Well, I can't imagine how big those feet are.
I wear a 28 triple G.
right. Exactly.
So they get there, and Treebeard, takes a little shower. He stands under the rain of that spring, and he takes a deep breath. He doesn't spend a week just breathing. He just takes a single deep breath. And then
It's
he
gotta
laughs
be
and
refreshing for him,
goes inside.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be.
And the inside is pretty Spartan, isn't it?
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
There's a
There's
table.
not much there. Yeah.
There's no chairs. There are these 2 big vessels of water, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, we will talk about that momentarily.
I guess there's no chairs because Ents don't bend that well. Remember we talked about this last time?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
They aren't so bendy. They're not going to be doing a lot of sitting.
No.
But then we get these 2 great vessels, and we see
let's talk about these.
this is a little bit of magia from Treebeard, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? I mean, we get the bowls of water glowing, and with different colored lights. You get the one that's got the golden light and one that's got the green light. And you end up with this light that's like the sun of summer shining through young leaves. What a vivid description that is.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
It really is. And, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in Bartleman's Bag tonight. We've got a question from one of our patrons that we'll dive into.
Yes, we will. But the hobbits look and they see how the trees are responding to this as well.
Yeah.
The trees had begun to glow.
Yeah.
Steadily quickening, and then each leaf is touched by this light.
Oh,
it's just gorgeous.
It is
I
gorgeous.
can't read the whole thing, but it's just amazing. Okay, I am going to read this part. This idea that the tree trunks are like pillars molded out of luminous stone.
just the
that's just-
glowing.
Yeah. That's just gorgeous. It's almost like they're glowing. It almost seems as if they're glowing with their own light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's beautiful.
And yeah, it really, really is. This is a scene that I think we don't see very often represented in visual art. We don't see a lot of paintings or drawings of Welling Hall, but this
That's
is
true
gorgeous.
to my recollection. I can't think of
There are a few, but there just aren't very many. And I remember looking it up because I was trying to get an idea of, honestly, what this place looked like. I in terms of the walls and the mountain, was it going, with the slope or across the slope, and how are the trees, is it narrowing down and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see the handful of pieces that were out there, but yeah, I didn't see as many as I would have expected. And it's such a beautiful location. I would love to see this more.
Considering the vividness of the language, the beauty with which this is described, it's going to make for a fantastic picture.
Absolutely, it will.
All right. Well, I think with that, we're ready to pick up with our last reading of the episode, aren't we?
I think we are. We're going to actually talk about the Ent draft a little bit, and I will take that.
Well, now we can talk again, said Treebeard. You are thirsty, I expect. Perhaps you are also tired. Drink this.
He went to the back of the bay, and then they saw that several tall stone jars stood there, with heavy lids. He removed one of the lids and dipped in a great ladle, and with it filled 3 bowls, one very large bowl and 2 smaller ones.
This is an ent house,
he said,
and there are no seats, I fear, but you may sit on the table.
Picking up the hobbits, he set them on the great stone slab 6 feet above the ground, and there they sat, dangling their legs and drinking in sips. The drink was like water, indeed very like the taste of the draughts they had drunk from the Entwash near the borders of the forest, and yet there was some scent or savor in it which they could not describe. It was faint, but it reminded them of the smell of a distant wood borne from afar by a cool breeze at night. The effect of the draught began at the toes and rose steadily through every limb, bringing refreshment and vigor as it coursed upwards, right to the tips of the hair. Indeed, the hobbits felt that the hair on their heads was actually standing up, waving and curling and growing. As for Treebeard, he first laved his feet in the basin beyond the arch, and then he drained his bowl at one draught, one long, slow draught. The hobbits thought he would never stop. At last he set the bowl down again. He sighed.
Now we can talk easier. You can sit on the floor, and I will lie down. That will prevent this drink from rising to my head and sending me to sleep.
So Treebeard suggests let's talk again. Now we're at a comfortable spot. Let's go ahead and finish our conversation.
I've had a drink, so now we can talk, yeah.
And you're thirsty, I bet. So
yeah.
Here, I'm going to get you a drink. So he fills 3 bowls. I love this.
Yeah.
One big one, of course, for himself,
Of course.
and then 2 small ones for the hobbits.
Right.
I think it's quite handy that he has hobbit-sized bowls laying around, but
I think it is. I don't know
Then
where they
again,
come
how
from.
small
Maybe they're
is
shot
small?
glasses. I'm thinking,
so
they're equivalent to him of the tiniest little shot glasses, but they're like fairly sizable soup bowls for the hobbits.
usually they're for Bregalad's moonshine. Is that it?
Yeah, they're for something. Quite. So Treebeard acknowledges the lack of furniture. There aren't any seats, but it's okay if you sit on the table. And by the way, the table is made of stone. It's not a wooden table, just because you all need to know that. Table is 6 feet above the ground. It's a little high.
A bit.
Yeah.
And then we get, is this not everybody's favorite thing about Ents? Is the Ent draft?
Yes.
Okay, I know that's a long list. There's probably a lot of favorite things about Ents. I love the Ent draft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this water, right?
Yeah.
We don't know it's called Ent draft yet, but this water at first, it's like what the hobbits have drunk from the Entwash last chapter, as we talked about. But there's a faint scent or a taste that they can't quite identify, like a distant wood on a cool breeze at night.
That's a pretty specific
that.
thing for something you can't identify, by the way.
Yeah, fair point.
Oh, man. I can't identify it, but it has this...
There's this faint note of something I can't identify. It's like a distant wood on a cool breeze at night.
That's it.
Yes, that's it.
I know. But I want to compare this with the same drink they'll have tomorrow morning. He serves them an Ent draft again, but from a different jar. And there it tastes earthier and richer, more sustaining and food-like, so to speak.
That's right. Yeah.
And of course, then there's the effect. It begins
Oh,
at
man.
the toes, which must feel amazing. Like, what's wrong with my toes? And then you feel it kind of flowing up all the way up your body, all this refreshment, all this energy. And then even the tips of the hair. Like, what?
I love that, honestly. I mean,
know.
it's a little weird, their hair
It
actually
is.
standing on end,
Yeah.
waving and growing. But I don't know, this whole thing is so tree-ish, isn't it? The feeling starts at the toes, which is where it would for an Ent, right? Their roots.
Mhm.
And it just goes up their whole body and then right up to their hair. And their hair, this idea of them waving and growing, you get this image of them almost being like vines, like growing vines.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what you're getting. It's, I'm picturing it and it's actually quite comical, but I think at this point, that's what they think is happening, right? They feel like that's happening.
Right.
They are growing though, as we'll find out.
I tend to think that there's actually something going on. I mean, they feel it happening because something is actually happening. I don't imagine that their hair is actually literally curling, but
I want a picture of that.
standing on end and everything. But again, I think they're feeling something.
Yeah. Oh, I think they are definitely feeling something. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Ent draft. There's really virtually nothing on it, but
yeah,
we really do have some choice quotes, and I think we're going to read some of them. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. So from Flotsam and Jetsam, coming up a little later this season. Aye, you do indeed, said Gimli, looking them up and down over the top of his cup. Why, your hair is twice as thick and curly as when we parted, and I would swear that you've both grown somewhat, if that's possible for hobbits of your age. This Treebeard, at any rate, has not starved you. He has not, said Merry. But Ents only drink, and drink is not enough for content. Treebeard's draughts may be nourishing, but one feels the need of something solid, and even Lembas is none the worse for a change. You have drunk of the waters of the Ents, have you? Said Legolas. Ah, then I think it is likely that Gimli's eyes do not deceive him. Strange songs have been sung of the draughts of Fangorn.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And then again, we get from the field of Cormallen,
Mm-hmm.
when someone else is reunited with Merry and Pippin.
Right.
But amidst all these wonders, and I'm talking about Sam here, returned always to his astonishment at the size of Merry and Pippin, and he made them stand back to back with Frodo and himself. He scratched his head. Can't understand it at your age, he said. But there it is. You're 3 inches taller than you ought to be, or I'm a dwarf. That you certainly are not, said Gimli. But what did I say? Mortals cannot go drinking Ent draughts and expect no more to come of them than of a pot of beer.
I love that. And I also love Gimli's gatekeeping. No, you are not a dwarf. Don't you do not get to even consider yourself a dwarf. No.
How dare you?
I know.
How dare you, sir?
That's right. I'm offended.
Harumph.
Swords at dawn.
Harumph.
And then from the prologue, according to the Red Book, Bandibris Took, Bullroarer, son of Isambris III, was 4'5" and able to ride a horse. He was surpassed in all Hobbit records only by 2 famous characters of old, but that curious matter is dealt with in this book.
I think it's dealt with in that passage.
I think it is, or at least it's beginning to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't the only time they'll drink it, right?
Right. Well, after the hobbits have their interesting experience with the Ent draft, we see Treebeard just chugging his bowl like a frat boy.
Chug.
He's got like the Ent draft bong and everything.
Oh man, is he playing Ent draft pong too?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's got like the hat with the Ent draft on the 2 big.
Oh yeah, 2
Ent
glasses of
draft
Ent draft, and then the tubes that go to the
Yeah.
I like that.
Sorry, that's a horrible image.
That is a terrible image. Mm-hmm.
But he advises the hobbits to sit on the floor while he lies down.
Yeah, and of course he's lying down because otherwise the drink is going to put him to sleep. I'm thinking it's
that.
a little. I know. I do too. Like, oh man, if it goes to my head, I'm going to go to sleep. And of course, that's because trees feed by capillary action.
Yeah.
So that's exactly where
drinking
it's
water
go.
from the roots on up, right?
Yeah.
And I love it because it's also a fun twist on the idea of a strong drink going right to your head.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes,
I think that's exactly what Tolkien's doing here. He's playing around with that idea. Like, Treebeard actually has to lie down, or else this thing is just gonna.
And you do not want to see Treebeard if he's hungover.
It's gonna make him pass out, man.
He shouldn't go striding across the forest now. He might get pulled over.
Yeah, especially as fast as
striding
he's
under
going.
the influence. Yeah.
Striding under the influence. He goes fast. I mean, he could do some damage.
He does. And I was going to say the mass is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to weigh at least as much as a small SUV.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Mass times velocity. Ugh.
I know. Force equals mass times acceleration. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, digression, and I was in physics.
Please.
I remember, I can't possibly for the life of me remember the formula other than force equals mass times acceleration, but then figuring out what the formula was for acceleration, and mass. Of course, mass was something, gravity and gravitational constant and all this kind of stuff. So, and I would have this big complicated formula, and it was "May the be with you."
Oh, right.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Such a nerd.
That's right. I'm trying to remember which one. So yes, mass times acceleration was force. What was mass times velocity? That was momentum, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But don't make me remember high school physics. It's been Shall we say a while?
You don't have to tell us how long it's been. Since Celeborn was young?
Since Celeborn was young, exactly. Well, folks, our drinks are rising to our heads and sending us to sleep.
Yeah.
But I think we can manage a question or two from Bartleman's bag first. And of course, even when that's done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
Indeed it does, because our amazing listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you're going to find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And be sure to follow the page and join the group that we recently created.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the page lets us keep you up to date on the latest PPP happenings, like our digital moot next year. But the group gives you a great chance to discuss Tolkien with your fellow listeners.
Yeah.
And with us, of course. And then, of course, we have some really great discussions going on over on Reddit, where you can find us at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us, and please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Indeed. And if you want exclusive content, things like episode postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, which several dozen people are enjoying at the moment,
Indeed.
and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what messages Bartleman has brought us. Sean?
All right. Well, first up, Lori M. in Washington asks, when Treebeard takes Merry and Pippin to his house, Wellinghall, he gives them the Ent draught to sustain them. But prior to drinking, Treebeard holds his hands over the 2 great vessels he has filled. Those are the 2 light vessels we were talking about, not the 3 Ent draught bowls.
Right.
And they glow with light. Is this, in some way, a hearkening back to the trees of Valinor? We do have 2 lights, although they are golden and green rather than golden and silver. Still, I cannot help but think that Yavanna's prayer to have guardians sent to watch over those in Middle-earth who cannot flee on their own in some way contributes to Treebeard's ability to conjure this light. We even see here the blending of the lights as of that of the trees. Although Treebeard has never seen Valinor and never saw the trees himself, I cannot help but think of the description of Telperion and Laurelin as I read this passage. Laurie goes on to say, we see the light again reflected along the edges of the leaves of the trees that border Wellinghall, and in the water that falls across the doorway. Once again, light proves to be so important to Tolkien as a signal of something good and right. What are your thoughts?
You know, I have to say, I think this might be another example of Tolkien inspiring Tolkien. Like how the Silmaril is but is not the Arkenstone. Remember when we talked about that? In the Hobbit?
That bit about dipping into his own homebrew.
Right,
which is
right.
not quite the same as dipping into Bregalad's moonshine, but yeah.
No, or even into Treebeard's Ent draught.
Right.
Now, Laurie is certainly right to observe the similarity between this passage and the description of Telperion and Laurelin, though obviously there are differences. She points out the obvious one, color. Instead of silver and gold, we have green and gold. But there's another difference. These don't wax and wane opposite of one another the way the trees do, where they only mingle at the beginning and end of their cycles. So there's a pretty big difference there too. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Honestly, I hadn't caught that about the difference of the way the lights mingle. You know, the waxing, the lack of waxing and waning. That's actually a really good catch. I did notice the difference in color, of course.
Yeah.
I still think that the rich green light of the one bowl could still be a reference to the dark green leaves of Telperion, just as the gold light is a reference to Laurelin. I mean, it's still not a perfect apples to apples comparison, and yes, that awful pun is intended. But it could be that, you know, the gold and the dark green was meant as a subtle reference to Laurelin and Telperion.
Could be.
And I think you're right. I think this is just a place where Tolkien was thinking just a little bit about this idea he already had from the Silmarillion.
Right.
It's probably not significant in any kind of grand symbolic way, but I just think it's probably one of those things where he likes this image. It harks back to Yavanna, and I do think Laurie's probably right. I think the power to do this must come from Yavanna. I think it's a bit of his magia, some part of his nature. And so in Tolkien's mind, it probably made sense that it would echo Laurelin and Telperion. So he probably decided to bring it in for that reason.
That does make sense, though. I actually also like the idea of Treebeard just turning on his colored smart lights for a little evening ambiance, you know.
Well, there's that too. I mean, he does have guests over, so, you know.
Right.
Alexa, set Wellinghall lights to
ding. I do not understand
gold
this.
And green.
I love that.
Ding.
I do. Though you know as well as I do that, if you don't get it out about 3 seconds, she dings and says, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure about that.
Right. I mean, you cannot pause for a second.
No.
Alexa, play, what's the name of that song? Ding.
Yeah.
So obnoxious. All
yeah,
right.
Exactly. All right. Well, do we have time for another, Alan?
I believe we do. Greg W., who hails from Buckinghamshire in the UK, writes, I was walking the dog the other day in the woods and started thinking about the Ents. For some reason, the very unfantastical subject of how the Ents eat popped into my head. As they aren't actually trees, do they use photosynthesis like plants, or do they eat and drink like animals? The thought of Ents roasting a goat over an open fire doesn't really seem fitting. No, it doesn't. But I'm not sure the little sunshine would give them the energy to storm Isengard. Obviously, this is just for fun. I don't expect or really want a scientific answer. I'm very much a believer in leaving a little mystery in the world.
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness for that, because we're not going to be able to give you a scientific answer.
No, good thing you're not expecting a real scientific answer, Greg.
Because if so, you asked the wrong people.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, let's start with what we know, right? We know that they certainly drink. Their Ent draft seems to nourish and not just hydrate. And then we know that there are at least 2 different variants. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there would be more.
Yeah.
And drinking that Ent draft, that nourishing Ent draft, does seem more like a plant-like behavior. But
the idea that they would be nourished by liquid instead of having to eat solids. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, instead of having to chew something.
Sure.
But I do think there's plenty of room for some fun speculation, Sean, because, of course, they aren't actually plants. So
true.
What kind of foods would Ents eat if they did eat? What kind of food would an Ent eat if an Ent ate food?
What kind of food would a wood Ent eat if a wood Ent would eat?
Yeah,
Anywho.
Exactly. But he wouldn't eat wood, that's for sure.
No, he wouldn't. I don't know, vegetables? It's probably a good place to start. I mean,
maybe.
Now, here's where things could get a little weird, because think back to the old days, when the Entwives were still around. And what happens when the Ent is caught tending someone else's garden, so to speak?
No.
And probably some very uncomfortable conversations. But I do think vegetables is probably a good place to start.
I don't know. I wonder if vegetables are too close a relative. I mean, I wonder if they're like purely carnivores in order to avoid that. But I mean, you'd have to think that certain vegetables would totally be off limits. I mean, a salad or spinach, anything really leafy, would have to be like eating a big bowl of hair.
Ew.
I mean, just ew. Ew. It's exactly what's on their whole bodies.
Yeah.
No.
This reminds me of my Entwife. Her hair was like this kale.
Yeah.
Hair was like this kale. That's
curly and crunchy.
Oh.
Okay, so maybe some vegetables. I mean, maybe like root vegetables, maybe some carrots.
Carrots, potatoes. Okay, I can do that.
Sure.
What about fruits? I mean, I don't know. They grow on trees. Ew. Hungry Bregalad, have this thing I found in my armpit. I mean,
nope. That's not.
That works.
That's not happening.
That's not going to work. No.
I mean, so you mentioned them being carnivores. Now, Greg did say he can't really imagine Ents roasting a goat over an open fire.
No, because what would be the fuel for the fire?
That's a good question.
That's, I think, the problem.
That's a really good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we cooking tonight? I don't know, but Bregalad is the fuel.
I mean, that's not going to work.
No.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry. I don't know why Bregalad is the butt of all my jokes tonight. I apologize, Bregalad.
Poor Bregalad.
My apologies to the Bregalad estate.
To the Bregalad estate for your insensitive remarks, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, maybe they'd be carnivores. I mean, they certainly don't have any qualms about turning orcs into dead meat.
No, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like they're going to be doing like mesquite smoked barbecue or anything like that.
No, or wood-fired pizza.
No.
I mean, really, they're probably not cooking much of anything on account of being a giant walking fire hazard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true. I guess they probably are eating a lot of raw foods.
If I burn myself on the stove, then it hurts, but my whole arm doesn't catch on fire and burn my body to the ground, right?
Yeah. I guess they probably could eat some bugs, right? They probably
Sure.
get some protein from grubs and worms. I mean, I don't know if you want to call that eating, but I'm not going to judge. Hey, if that's what they do. I bet they'd enjoy eating termites, though. That's got to feel good if you're an Ent.
As long as you make sure they're really well and truly squished and not like eating
Yeah.
them live, because then they'll just
eat
giving
you
them a
from
head
the
start.
inside out.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's gruesome.
No, that is terrifying. I should say that our entire Discord channel is begging us to suggest that perhaps they eat gumbo.
Probably. Yeah.
They 'cause
They
that's
probably
mostly
do eat
vegetables, right?
vegetarian gumbo.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, folks, believe it or not, we actually have time for one more, and it's only because it's a short one. And honestly, it's one we wish we could have gotten into the show in December. Rachel R. in Lakeville, Indiana, wrote to us and asked, since you both live in America, and I'm assuming you celebrate at least one of the upcoming winter holidays, my question to you is this. What characters from the Legendarium, character or characters, would you spend your holidays with and why? And I would also like to know what non-Legendarium character you would most like to spend the holidays with. Tolkien's creation or otherwise. Ooh, or otherwise. I hadn't caught that.
Okay.
Sean, you go ahead and go first.
Well, believe it or not, I've actually thought about this before. I don't know why,
I don't know why either.
but it is something I've considered before, so it is kind of easy for me. I will admit that teenage me would have said Éowyn, because I would enjoy spending the holidays with her. Before she met Faramir, of course. I don't want to complicate things between them or anything like that.
Really? Really?
No, I don't. And honestly, I basically ended up marrying Éowyn in real life, so I pretty much spend every day with her. So I'm good there.
All right.
These days, I think I'd probably say I would most want to spend the holidays with the maggots.
Oh.
Now,
Okay.
we know they're great hosts. And
yeah.
I know Farmer Maggot could tell some great stories by the fire. Probably got some stories about Tom Bombadil that we
Probably.
haven't heard.
Yeah.
And the food and drink would be fantastic if you like mushrooms, which I do. I mean, I don't like the really scary mushrooms, but the regular kind of mushrooms that I think Tolkien was thinking of. I like those.
Sure. Okay.
So that would be good. I don't know. What about you?
Well, I admit I wouldn't mind a plate of Farmer Maggot's bacon, hold the mushrooms, but and here's the thing, you're always stealing my Éowyn related thunder, so I can't go there either. I think Christmas in the Shire, specifically at Bag End, just seems absolutely lovely. A little snow on the Malorn, sledding down the hill, giving gifts to Hobbit kids. Something tells me they'd do Yule proper.
I bet they would.
Yeah.
I bet they would. Yeah.
That would just be a fantastic way to spend Christmas. What about non-Legendarium? This one's easy, I think, given our recent
for
discussions.
Tolkien characters, non-Legendarium, it's got to be Father Christmas and North Polar Bear.
Absolutely.
Is there any other answer?
Again.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
No. I mean, Father Christmas, North Polar Bear,
Yeah.
Ilbereth, all of
Ilbereth
those.
too. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to put a little spin on this. Are there any characters you wouldn't want to spend the holidays with?
Well, other than Feanor, Eöl, Miglin, I mean, something tells me that would be a very unpleasant holiday season.
Feanor's Yule log is just a plank from a Telerin ship.
From a Telerin ship. Oh, that is just wrong. Every year he burns another chunk that didn't get burned initially. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
terrible.
When are we going to stop burning all the Yule logs, Dad?
None and none.
None and none. Never and never. I don't know.
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Oh.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah, no. Eöl and Miglin come to mind. Like, that's a house I don't want to be at Christmas. That would
Oh,
be
you
a
talk about
really,
dysfunctional. Yeah.
seriously, very unpleasant holiday season.
Shut up, Dad. Stop.
But nobody
Why are you
wants
always
to-
criticizing me, Dad?
Come on. But look, I mean, nobody wants to hang with the obvious bad guys. I mean, the Christmas and Angband holiday special was a flop for good reason. So,
Yeah, well, it's because it
It's
had
too
Jefferson
easy.
Starship in it.
well, yeah, that'll do it every time.
I mean, you're right. There are some obvious ones. Like the first thoughts I had were, no, you don't want to spend Christmas with the Witch King
No.
or Hanukkah
no.
with the Mouth of Sauron or anything like
Oh,
that.
goodness, no.
Denethor came to mind as somebody I would not want to have around for holiday dinner because I feel like he'd be like that one uncle who just won't stop arguing with you about politics.
Oh, gosh, and you can't get him to stop talking about it either.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just going on and just getting
Yeah.
drunker and drunker as the night goes on as he
Oh,
sits there and
no.
drinks his wine and eats his
And
tomatoes.
pops his cherry tomatoes. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You knew where I was going with that.
I can tell. Yeah.
Less obvious ones. I mean, as much as I love the Rohirrim, I honestly don't think that the holidays in Edoras would be very merry.
No, you're probably right.
Probably be kind of cold and uncomfortable. I mean, good stories, good mead, but I don't know. It doesn't strike me as a warm and cozy place to spend holidays.
Foreshell, the snowmen of Lossoth. I mean, they intrigue me, but I don't want to spend the deep part of winter there. So I'm going to pass.
In the deepest part of the north. Yeah.
No, not a good idea. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. But please be sure to join us again next week when the hobbits get Treebeard all riled up.
Ooh, you wouldn't like him when he's angry. All over that Saruman fellow, too. But folks, we want to take a moment to thank some really important people, our patrons at the Círdan's contribution tier. They are DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut. Thank you all so much for your support.
We also want to thank the team that helps make this show better. Our research assistants, along with our Barlowman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates.
No.
So thank you all. Now, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, what you drink instead of Ent Draft to Barlowman.
Gumbo.
Of course. To Barlowman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Yeah, Barlowman's a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail. So be patient, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. And your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Now, as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.